my name is Evan. I am the host of the To The Table podcast, and I am excited to be here for our second episode. Today, I'm joined by our second guest, Dianne Owens. You saw her husband last week, Dusty, our pastor, and I'm excited to be here. And Dianne, how are you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you, Evan.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I'm excited. I think, and we're all excited. We've received good feedback on this. Like I said, this is our second episode. The first episode was only on YouTube, which I didn't figure out the distributor for our podcast for the audio only. So This episode should be out on Spotify, Google Podcasts.
So that'll be the audio only, and then the video audio will be on YouTube.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So that's because people like listening in their car, and you don't want to be pulling up a YouTube video and listen to the audio.
That's exciting. Thanks for everything that you do to put this stuff together.
Yeah, but it's really not hard. It wouldn't let me authorize because you have to link the accounts, and then it distributes it to those accounts for you. All you have to do is create the accounts.
So you got it all figured out?
Well, yeah, I did. I was looking up, researching today, and then you have to just basically put the information, upload the episode from there, and then it distributes it to those platforms. So it'll be out. This episode should be out on basically anywhere you find your podcast.
Wow.
And then it'll also be video podcast will be on YouTube.
That's superb.
But we thank you all for watching today. We're Dawsey United Methodist Church. We're a small United Methodist Church located here in Florence, South Carolina. And we would love to have you if you come worship with us and serve it in person with our service, or if you cannot worship with us in person, you can look at our services online on YouTube. You can check out our Facebook, Instagram, and our website for more information on the church. But I've got nothing else, and let's get into it.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about the stuff that's happened to us this past week. And you want to go first?
Sure. Some weeks don't go as planned, and I'm a planner, so I put everything on the calendar and make lists and do that sort of stuff, and then life sets in and everything goes awry, and you have to be flexible. And so it was a busy week, but it was a good week, though it didn't go as planned. And we had company this weekend.
Yes.
The great my niece and her husband came and visited, and they have a 1-year-old. So
yes, and they came to church yesterday. That was nice of them.
So it was a lot of fun.
Yes.
We had a good weekend with them, and then I worked a little bit this week, and I do a little work at the Literacy Council, Florence Area Literacy Council. So it was a busy week.
Yeah,
it was busy. You?
Me?
Keeping those grades up?
Trying to, but. It's been about the same for me. Nothing much. Been working on this, trying to get this distributed. Advent's coming up, so I have to do that. Me and Nancy are figuring that out. School's been fine. There's nothing crazy been happening.
No wrecks in the parking lot?
No wrecks. No, nothing like that. What else did I do? Weekend I really didn't do much of anything. We came up Wednesday. We had practice here. JP's been really helpful with me with this. And
any new music?
New music.
Are you just working on?
We're working Christmas.
And
we really just got started last week or the week before, and we normally start in August.
So we're just going to have to hit the road.
Yeah, we're a bit because for the Christmas music that we do, we normally try to do regular, and then here we try to do it more and more intricate stuff, and it takes more time to practice. So that's going to be fun. Yeah. But that's about all I did.
We have a lot of special stuff coming up.
We do. We have our, speaking of stuff's going on around the church, October 31st, from 5:30 to 7, we have our trunk or treat.
That's right.
I made a Facebook event on that for our Facebook. So if you want to go check that out, more details are there about that. I don't believe we have anything else, but that's going to be on October 31st on Halloween. A lot of churches are having it on these other days.
Right.
But we're having ours on Halloween. Last year we had it on the 30th because we didn't want to have it on a Sunday.
Yeah.
But I saw I think Greenwood, they were having one and they were doing theirs on a Sunday this year. But we didn't want to have ours on a Sunday last year, and I had to miss ours last year because I had the flu and strep throat.
Oh no!
I saw Wendy at the doctor's office. That like the Friday or Thursday before I saw her, and she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm sick." And I said, and I did all that work. I got everything, and I was the coordinator that year because that was my first year as well doing chair of outreach. So I coordinated that. I got all the trunks together, and I couldn't make it. Well, that sucked. But hopefully this year I'll be able to make it. We've got a lot of trunks this year, hopefully a little bit more. Nancy's going to talk with Lisa and Patsy tonight about that, and that'll be fun.
Oh, good. Great.
I don't believe we have anything else happening around the church, but anything else with you that you can think of?
Nah.
No.
Just the usual.
Busy.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, let's get into our verse of the day.
Okay.
So today's verse of the day and the episode is titled How to Find God. This can go really any way that you picture it, or just, there's different ways, and I have something pulled up here that I'll show. But today's verse of the day is 1 Chronicles 28, verses 9 through 10.
How did you choose the verse?
How did I choose the verse?
I know I understand the topic, but how did you choose the verse?
Well, I wasn't really able yesterday to work on this as I wanted to. The service yesterday was with YouTube wasn't being the fastest, which it's not. I started at about 2:30, 2:15. I uploaded the service at about 8:30.
Oh my gosh.
The editing part doesn't take long. It's just exporting it to my computer takes about an hour and 20 minutes. And then uploading it to YouTube probably takes about 2-3 hours.
Okay.
I could upload it to YouTube probably in about an hour, but it wouldn't upload the HD version because then you wouldn't be able to look at it, and it looked very bad, which the camera we have now isn't the greatest, so it already looks not the greatest, but even with that, it doesn't look good, and I would rather just wait and then have it there. And so I could use my computer, but I don't want to make it work harder than it has to. But today I was in school, and I had some downtime that I had, and so I just started up. I couldn't think of anything. I was going to think of... The other episode idea I had was ways to outreach in the church and stuff, and that stuff. But we kind of did that last week with the commission, saying, go tell the world, all that stuff. But I was like, well, I don't want to do that. But that would be a great one. We'll save it a little bit later when, people start forgetting about it. And
it's a great passage, and I don't think many people remember it or refer to it often enough. So go ahead and read it, because I think it's marvelous.
Yeah, I did, before I read it, but I did some, I'll finish what I was saying, but I did some research, and I was looking up just some general topic ideas about, different ideas you can talk about. And this came up about, how to find God. A couple years ago, how long was this? Probably 4 or 5 years ago, I did Youth Sunday here, and it was probably about 3-4 years ago, and it was my second time preaching. The first time Mary gave me a thing, and I read it word for word. The second time I came up with my own thing, and I labeled it "Who Was God?" And it was a deeper dive into, it was just, who he was. And I was looking, and one of the bits I did, well, not really bits, but one of the parts in the sermon was, I looked up who was God on the internet. And, when you look up on Google, it has little drop-down boxes of, like when you're looking up something and it's got a little side question about that.
A little arrow.
Yeah, it's the little drop-down box. And so I was looking at the drop-down box, and some of them were say, what is God's address? What is God's phone number? It's just stuff like that. I don't remember it, but I have to pull it up. But I still have it saved, though, a lot of the stuff and the little notes and stuff like that. But it was very eventful. And so that kind of made me think about it. And I was like, what about I kind of reword that? And, how do we find God, and how do we contact him? Well, not really contact, but I guess you could say contact. But how do we get in touch with him? Because sometimes we have to forget that we get out of touch sometimes, and we have to get back into that. But today's verse of the day, like I said, is 1 Chronicles 28, verses 9 through 10. I'm reading out of the New International Version. And this the little section header is called David's Plans for the Temple. It's a very good, 28 is a very good chapter. So if you guys want to read that, it's 1 Chronicles 28, but I'm going to be reading 9 through 10. And you, my son, Solomon, acknowledge the God of your father and serve him with a wholehearted devotion and with a willing mind. For the Lord searches every heart and understands every desire and every thought. If you seek him, he will be found by you, but if you forsake him, he will reject you forever. Consider now, for the Lord has chosen you to build a house as the sanctuary. Be strong and do the work. So with this last week, you hear at the end of 10 it says, "Be strong and do the work." Mm-hmm. We were very talking about how the Great Commission, go and tell the world about me, is also a very good song, and we will be seeing Cain here shortly. I believe we are, but that was a very good song, and we did that song, so that's why I wanted to choose that, because I love the song, and it's just a very good message. But when it says be strong and do the work, you have the thing about who is God. We talked about having the 12 disciples, and Dusty talked about commissionaries, about going out and telling and doing stuff, and it's kind of like, I reiterated it and reworded it as a tree. Mm-hmm. So you have your little tree and you have your branches from the tree. So it's just like a basic family tree, or a branch of just whatever. So you have your CEOs, your lowers, and the CEO is there, and they're there to basically be a public, but they do make a lot of decisions, and you have those other people who do the work. It's just like the church. You have me, chair outreach. You're not going to have Wendy, the secretary. She's not going to be doing outreach stuff. That's what she does, and that's what I do, and we take it from each other and split it up and do our part in different ways. Just like especially this year, we tried spreading it out with the jobs in the church to try to get more people, because some people, especially Mark, said that he was tiring because he was chair, trustees, and church council, and those are two ones you have to do, and he has to do that.
It's a lot.
It is. But where I was going with this is doing the work. It might be a lot, but it's not. It's good to ask for help, and like you said, be strong and do the work. So do you have anything to say about it?
Well, I further up in the passage, because I always like to look at the context of what the verses are from. David, he's standing up and he's kind of directing them, and he's telling them that he wasn't able to build the sanctuary of his dreams for the Lord because he was a warring man, and all of the people that he killed, all that required him to step back, and that God had chosen his son Solomon to be the one to build the temple. And he's reminding him that he has to know God for himself. David's relationship with God has gotten Solomon the job he's about to do, but it's not going to keep him there. Solomon has to keep himself there by knowing God and having that singleness of mind and a willing heart, and that he has to start developing his own relationship, and then be, like you said, be strong and act. It's like, okay, I'm passing it off to you. It's your turn now, and you got to man up. You got to do this.
Yes.
And you've got to know God for yourself. You got to find him. You got to search him out. He's looking for you, and now go and seek him. And of course, Solomon went on to do great things, and he was the man of wisdom. So he did develop his own relationship, but David gives him a warning that he doesn't want him to forsake God or be forsaken by God. So, it's just a good reminder for all of us. What we learn in school only takes us so far. What we learn by our parents teaching us only takes us so far. Ultimately, we're going to be the ones who have to have the relationship with God. We're going to have to know him for ourselves and be put into those places where we'll be strong and act. And so, I think it's just great because it's a father-son relationship, and then it's the passing the gauntlet, so to speak, and knowing and finding God. You have to come to a point in your life where you say, either there is a God or there isn't a God. And then based on that, you make some decisions. If there is a God, then what does that mean for me? And then once you decide what it means for you, you keep moving forward in your searching and your seeking and in your finding.
Yeah, so, because he can. Cool. because it can be there or it can be there, but you have to apply. It's just, I just thought about this, but you know how they have 3D movies, right?
Right.
You can't see it in 3D until you put on the glasses on.
You're right.
So you just have to apply yourself,
You're
and you
right.
have to apply. It's because a lot of the teachers, especially, I mean, they can, especially like you talk about school, they can only teach you, but you have to also apply. You can't just expect, oh, I'm pass this test. Just, I pay attention in class, but you don't go home, you don't go study, you don't do that. But it's just, you have to apply the work, and it's just, like it said, be strong and do the work. That is the main thing in that.
This version is the New Revised Standard, and it says, be strong and act.
Yes.
And yours, it says, do the work.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that we may be strong, but we're waiting on somebody else to do the work. Or we may be strong, and we want somebody else to help us. And sometimes we're the person that has to take that first step, and it's hard. Mm-hmm. It's hard.
Yeah, it's because you have people who have different. You have people who have different. They're what they are. Introverts, extroverts,
Right.
that kind of thing. And so we just, different people. I mean, I understand that people like to keep to themselves, but as long as you're keeping to yourself and you're doing it yourself, and as long as you're doing that, I mean, if you feel like you're already and you're doing good as what you're doing, it's it's all by you.
How hard is it, do you think, to find God? Do you think he makes himself available?
I think it's different with every person. You have, it's like you said, you have to put in the work and you have to put in the effort to do it. But some people, it's different. Some people need it more than others, and some people, they just don't believe in it, and they don't see it as well, as that. But it's just different. People have their own takes and own personal opinions on it. And it's just however, many people put in the effort and the work. So if you're putting in only 30%, he has to put in 70%, and he might not want to do 70%. So if you do more like 60, 50, hey, I'm helping you out. And so then it gets more easier to think about it and where it's helping you out more. And I guess really the answer is it's just different for everybody, because,
Right.
At a certain point people might realize, or it's especially with Mark before, Mark, he said that he didn't even want to come to church. That's because it's just how he was. But, until people realize, or especially with that, it's I think it's more of a personal standpoint.
I ran into someone this week who said he didn't want to go to church because he could worship outside of church better because of the people in church who are fake, or people in church who are hypocrites. When they're in church, they're one way, and when they're out of church, they're another. And, I was just telling him, well, you're going to find hypocrites everywhere, so you are everywhere with them anyway. And God deserves your attention. So put your attention on God and not on all that other stuff. People do mess up. People do make mistakes. People do have shortcomings. We are imperfect, but God is still God. And knowing him and finding him is a lifelong pursuit. It's not an immediate thing. We all grow and change. Mm-hmm. But it's a process.
Yeah, and going back to the thing about the hypocrites in the church, I mean, there's tons of more options. I was talking with JP, and we were asking, why'd you come here? Who are you? What do you do? And
JP just showed up one day.
He came before Dusty came, and he was one. It was, I believe, it was one day we did a song. We did a band piece. I believe it was June the 12th, because that day, well, the reason I remember is because of the song we did. Well, the recording that day on the preacher's mic was just crazy. It was really bad. And so, but the song we did the Less Like Me, the Zach Williams song. And I was like, well, that sounds good. And I was like, I don't want to, let it go to waste. So I just uploaded, I talked to Mark and I talked to Andrew. I was like, do you think I should just upload this? And they're like, yeah. I mean, if you can't really fix the preacher's mic and go ahead and do that, I mean, go for it. And so I uploaded that, and I believe that was the day. Or no, it was in May, because we did a different song, I believe. Yeah, I think it was in May. I don't think it was that Sunday. But he came, and Nancy was sitting down because Mark was playing the piano. And so Nancy was looking at him, and she said to Mark, after whenever, you might want to go talk to him after church because he might either be a musician or he's really interested, because he was, looking around at everybody, looking at everything, seeing how everything works. And so we went after that day and we started talking to him, and we, found out who he was, what he did, his business and all that stuff. And then, he started coming back, and I was like, who are you? And so he said that he used to be in bigger churches, and he really didn't he was in a church that had like 20 members, 15 members, and then it grew to over 400. And he said he really didn't like that. And he wanted to find a small United Methodist church, and we've been lucky to have him.
Yeah.
And we've all been grateful for him, but with him, I think it's really been helpful having him here. Yeah. And going back to the how we find God, before I was here, I pulled up some little things here, and just different ways to find God, and different because for everybody it might be different. Mm-hmm. I think with Mark, like we said, it music might have helped him, mm-hmm. as I believe, and it helped me and different people. Mm-hmm. But it's just another way. But I have the list here, and it says the Bible speaks clearly of God's love for us and His plan to save us. Here are the simple steps to find God and be born again. Number 1, be certain of your need for God. If you think you can handle life on your own, then you'll probably never find God. If you must recognize your own sinfulness and your inability to solve it. So, I guess that goes back to the thing about you have to 30-70 or 50-50, 60-40. Mm-hmm. So I guess that goes back to that. Understand the cross is number 2. God sent His only Son to the earth to die on the cross for you and your sins. This is the solution we can't provide for ourselves. Mm-hmm. Number 3, count the cost. The Christian life isn't easy, and there are things to do for those who follow Jesus. But it is worth it many times over, and God promises to be with you. So,
yeah, be strong and act.
Yes. And yeah, that's it.
Just goes right back to it.
And then 4, accept Jesus publicly. The Bible says, so everyone who acknowledges me before men, I will also acknowledge before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, I will also deny before my Father who is in heaven. That's Matthew 10:32. Matthew 10:32. It says Matthew 10:32 through 32. It might not be the whole thing. But yeah. And then 5, let God change your life. This step represents the beginning. Your new life starts the moment you receive Jesus. He will work through you as you remain faithful, pray, read your Bible, attend church, and tell others about what he has done for you. And then that was the last one. Then under it, it's at the end. It says, "You don't have to search for God any longer. Invite Him in your life today."
Yeah. Yep. God's available, and I think if Solomon hadn't accepted the job, would there have been no temple at all? So he did find God. He did follow God, and we have that story that could help us in ways keep going, because it does get tough.
Yes,
life is hard, but God is there.
Yeah, like you said, we have to find Him, and this is how to find God, and those are some good examples there. But there's tons of many other ones. Music, podcasts.
Sometimes through nature.
Podcasts.
If you're outside and you can feel the presence of the Creator.
People like to do that. Podcast, church services. If you can't, if you're not able to go, internet's been very helpful.
It
has. And like as a podcast, there's just all kinds of different
through books
you
can read
books
you can read.
Yeah, and there's just so many different ways, and I guess it's our decision and our way to do it. There's the resources are there. It's just like learning in school. You have different ways, visually hands-on, listening. There's all kinds of, I feel like I do better doing work when I'm listening to music. That's personally me, because I like music and that stuff. But I think music has also helped me, because one of my bigger realizes and one of my bigger understandings is when I went to my first, I guess, Christian concert which is the Zach Williams one. And that was like, this is cool. I mean, there's more to this. And
Right.
it was just very nice. And then
You got a bigger picture of God that night?
Yeah, and it was fun. And then that's just the thing. You have to make it fun because you're not going to enjoy it. Because if you're working a job that you don't like, you're not going to enjoy it. And so why be there?
Right.
You can quit. I mean, but even though you might not be able to, if you do have a chance to, you have the option. You have the chance to. So, I mean, take it if you can. But, you know, that night it was very cool. I had a great time there, and I started listening to more Christian music. Before that,
Did you know it existed, but you didn't listen to it?
I did.
You just not know the good stuff was there?
I did. It's just before that, I didn't. The only probably music I listened to was either in church or at practice. I knew some of the songs that we did, but now, I mean, personally, I would play my own music if I had a newer vehicle, but
right.
I have to listen to radio, and I keep it on Caleb a lot of the times because a lot of the music I do, like, they really don't play on radio anywho. So, but I mean, if I could, I would, especially in class.
You can search Petra and some of those other early Christian artists that really changed what music became.
In
the genre.
I was talking to Travis, Patsy's son,
right?
And I was texting back and forth with him, and he was showing me some like really heavy, like you wouldn't even think that it's Christian music because
the guys' hearts are in the right place, and the music comes from their hearts.
Yeah, he's a musician. He plays drums, and
cool.
He's really been helpful with me and teaching me some stuff.
Super.
But there's all kinds of different music, and there's all kinds of different ways.
Yeah.
But I think that mainly wraps up here with our second episode of the To the Table podcast. This is the How to Find God episode. Like I said before, you can check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, our website. This episode should be out on everywhere you find your podcast. Should be. I'm not exactly sure, but if it's not, YouTube is there, and YouTube's free to use. You don't have to sign in to use YouTube. You just go to it, and if you have Facebook, Instagram, the link will be shared there. But I had fun.
Yeah.
And we're having fun.
Thanks for
we hope you join us next week, where, like I said last week, we don't know what we're gonna talk about next week, so that's gonna be fun. So my name is Evan.
Dianne.
And I'm your host, and thanks for listening, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks, and bye.